David, I went on a bit of a little mini tirade here with Paul St-Pierre Plamondon's reaction to, first of all, Mark Carney's speech last week at the Citadel in Quebec City, and then this whole cultural appropriation because he happened to be in a photo op with Bonhomme Carnaval. But please, tell me what you think about everything that's gone on.
Oh, man. Paul St-Pierre Plamondon actually missed yet again another opportunity to broaden his base with Quebecers. After Mark Carney's total triumph in Davos, you understand the strategy. Mark Carney does his cabinet retreat in Quebec City, goes on a very highly symbolic place, the Plains of Abraham, where the British beat the French in 1759. And when you look at the speech, if you actually read the speech or listen to the speech, which I've done several times this weekend, because I don't understand the whole reaction, the total excess of reaction from Paul St-Pierre Plamondon and the PQ. Did he gloss over maybe a bit too quickly on how the French community survived after 1759? Maybe. Could he have been more sensitive, recognized a few codes? And, he's a new prime minister, he's a new politician. He's not from Quebec. He's going to learn. He's going to understand those codes. But it was never the type of speech that warranted this complete overreaction. Think about this. Yesterday, so the PQ is in a convention. This is 1,400 members assembled. The leader's speech at the end of a convention, you've covered many of these. You're basically, especially when you're 8 months away from an election and you're leading in the polls, this is basically mapping out the platform, where he wants to go.
Yeah.
And his entire 30 minutes was on the Carney speech and saying that the referendum campaign had just begun and that Carney was Captain Canada and was the enemy, the nemesis. The problem is Mark Carney is not a snarling, foaming at the mouth, centralizing federalist, like the PQ or the sovereignists would like to imagine. He's not Jean Chrétien. He's not Pierre Trudeau. And so it doesn't stick. And the other thing, as a Francophone, I got to say, I didn't realize that I was a slave, and I didn't know it, because that's what he said, referencing Gandhi, referencing Nelson Mandela, and saying that if we weren't sovereignists, we in the Quebec Francophone community were slaves, and worse even, we didn't even know we were slaves to the colonialist dictates of Mark Carney. Now, this is like, and add, yes, the cultural appropriation of the Bonhomme Carnaval. Oh my goodness, really? The thing is that what I really enjoyed looking at during this morning and throughout the weekend is that, but especially this morning, if you look at the political punditry of the nationalist movement, not a lot of people are saying bravo, extraordinary job, Paul. They're like, oh, okay, this was not the front page of the Journal de Montréal this morning. Actually, there was nothing about this in the front page of the Journal de Montréal.
How telling is that, David?
No, but that's huge. That tells you that something is starting to break. And I know I'm being long here, but bear with me, because when you look at what happened last fall, and even go back to the summer, remember last summer, out of nowhere, Paul St-Pierre Plamondon comes out, the rise in crime is directly tied to immigrants. And everyone's really scratching their heads. Everybody's scratching their heads. Do you have any data about this? And what are you talking about? And remember, this same guy that thought that Donald Trump's vision of immigration control is not a bad idea, we should take a look at it. Now comes the fall, comes November, where he just goes off out of nowhere on a tangent saying that the cultural sector of Quebec, the Francophone cultural sector of Quebec, the Radio-Canada newsroom, and researchers that are basically aren't intellectually honest because they supposedly kowtow and kneel to the federal government when they accept money or they congratulate a minister. You know, it was after Mark Miller's comments, congratulate a minister on his new on an appointment. Everybody's scratching their heads again. And he's not broadening his base. He is at best, and that's thanks largely to Pablo Rodriguez, he's hovering around 35% support in the polls. And because of our screwed up system and the fact that there are 5 parties now polling over 10% in Quebec, that would give him a majority government, and that would be a historic low for a majority government in Quebec. The record belonging to François Legault's 2018 majority government with 37.5% of the vote. But the most important point I want to make, and these are biggies in my mind, but even bigger than that, Aaron, is that this morning I was thinking, I was preparing, my ideas and getting my thoughts in order for because I do the same thing at Radio Canada on Monday mornings. But I was thinking about, the single mom with 2 kids trying to get ready this morning, shoveling, getting the car ready, hoping daycare's open, thinking about, it's the end of the month, grocery bills, the rent is due, nothing, our minds are poisoned with what we saw happen in Minneapolis this weekend. And Trump, even though we think it's another taco moment, but he's still threatening 100% tariffs. Yeah. I was talking to business leaders over the weekend, business owners who, and one leader told me, well, look, I 40% of my business is with the U.S. I have to be concerned. I have to be worried about this. I have to think. It creates uncertainty. I have to think about contingency plans this weekend. I have to get ready. What if? So all of that, plus, everything that's going on in everyday lives, St-Pierre Plamondon didn't utter one word on affordability, not one word on our healthcare system, not one word on our education system. It is disconnection, and there's a growing thought here that now something that seemed inevitable last year, which is a PQ majority government, this is now becoming more and more of like, okay, this guy can be beat. He's developing a Poilievre problem, and it's twofold. Same way that Poilievre was completely obstinate in not adapting his message to the reality of Canadians and Quebecers, and he's still not, by the way. You're seeing the same thing with St-Pierre Plamondon. And also, it translates in the polls because if, let's say, Christine Fréchette gets her act together and pulls off a Carney, I'm not saying she is, but so far, so good. It's the very beginning. I'm not saying she'll turn everything around, but we saw what happened with Mark Carney, so we know it's possible. Who knows if Charles Milliard wakes up and gets on the ground and starts talking about real issues to real Quebecers. But if somebody starts popping up, and even Éric Duhem in the regions, he did score 36% during a by-election last summer, finishing a strong second, something may break here. Because really, with the way St-Pierre Plamondon is managing this, he's completely disconnected, and the worst of the worst for him is with women, all ages, all generations. Just like Pierre Poilievre, women are not buying this at all, and it shows up, as you said, with the opposition to a referendum over 60%. That includes a majority of francophones. Or a majority of francophones are opposed to independence. And I heard you said, and not to correct, but it's even bigger. Mark Carney is not only the most popular federal politician in Quebec, he's the most popular politician in Quebec, period.
Yeah.
So he must be saying something that is connecting with people, and St-Pierre Plamondon is missing the boat big time right now.
So we're going to run out of time, but David,
yeah.
we were going to talk about other things, but I just want to follow up with one point here. My question was going to be, is PSPP, has he lost the narrative here, or is this going to be his narrative going forward? He's going to hear how people have reacted. He's going to notice this. You've been in cabinet before. Are they going to sit around a table and go, you know what, maybe this is not what we should be doing? Look what people are saying about what was said.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I really think from what I've heard, read, and I've talked to people, a lot of people who actually know him much better than I do, and this is the type of guy, just like Pierre Poilievre. This is the guy. He's right, and get out of his way. And if you're not right, there's something wrong intellectually with you. You're just not smart enough. And so he's going to keep on going this way. And because, look, he's looking at, he's surrounded himself with like-minded people. He is leading in the polls, but it's a peculiar circumstance. You have two other major parties going through a change in leadership. But at the end of the day, St-Pierre Plamondon is not going to move one iota from this line. But the thing is that Quebecers clearly are not necessarily following on this.
Interesting analysis. I wonder, too, you mentioned Christine Frechette, so we know, of course, She said she's in. She even spoke English, apparently, in part. I didn't see that part. To your point, I hadn't really thought of it, but you're right. I mean, Mark Carney kind of came out of nowhere. Christine Frechette, not that well-known politically anyway for most people. No. Do you think she stands a chance?
Well, what she has shown so far, and these are extremely early days, but she right now is embodying a completely different way of looking at things for the CAQ. Let's remember, this was a former PQ staffer to Jean-François Lisée in the Marois government. She slammed the door because of the Charter of Values. And so she decided to run in 2022 saying, I want a nationalist government. I want Quebecers to stand up. But I don't believe that, the old debate, federalism against independence, is helping Quebec. And she still believes that. She has the economic chops. Her speech yesterday was more connected to the top issues that preoccupied Quebecers than anything that St-Pierre Plamondon's speech touched on yesterday. So what I'm saying is that it could, again, early days, but it could keep a lot of those disgruntled PQ voters that went to the CAQ, could keep some of them with the CAQ, could keep also a lot of those votes that need to go back to the PQ. And let's remember this, to this day, all the polls agree, even though the PQ is at 35%, very important to understand, Aaron, about 30% of the PQ's support right now is Federalist. And so if that support leaves the PQ, and let's say there are strategic votes, and Quebecers do that. Look, Sovereignists voted for Carney in April. We know this. Bloc voters left because they were too afraid of Pierre Poilievre, and they said, this is too serious, we have to go with Carney. And so if there is this worry, this just fear with the situation, with Trump, with the world, with our economy, with cost of living, affordability, et cetera, you could see strategic voting that could sap that support that we currently see for the PQ. This could seriously happen.
And that's where we leave it. David, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Seasoned gamer or just video game curious? This Week in Gaming is the podcast for you. We break down the latest in the world of video games, from basics to beyond. The hottest gaming news, insight, and industry leaders and more, weekly. Join me, Naomi Kyle, and stay ahead of the game with all the latest updates, even if you're a total newbie. Stream This Week in Gaming on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.